architect. Young Iggy Peck is an architect and had been since he was 2 when he built a great tower in only an hour with nothing but diapers and glue. "Good gracious, Ignatius," his mother exclaimed, "that's the coolest thing I've ever seen." But her smile faded fast as a light wind blew past, and she realized those diapers weren't clean. "Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty, it stinks." But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn, using dirt clods to build a great sphinx. When Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples and temples from modeling clay. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye, and out on the porch built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. Dear Ig had made it until the 2nd grade when his teacher was Miss Lila Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say: "We do not talk of buildings in here. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings ancient or new." She said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere. For when she was no more than 7, she had a great fright at a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. On an architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lila got lost from the group. She was found 2 days later in a stuck elevator eating cheese with the French circus troupe. After that day, it was quite safe to say she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that, above all, one ought to avoid them. No ifs, ands, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such a terrible talk. But he didn't hear. He sat in the rear while building a castle of chalk. "You, Iggy Peck, your desk is a wreck. Tear down that castle right now. You will not build in here. Is that perfectly clear? Do you need to see Principal Howell?" "No, ma'am," Iggy said. He lowered his head and his heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed. Now 2nd grade was a bore. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading, writing, and arithmetic, Miss Greer took the class to the Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream, but they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed, and Miss Lila Greer started to scream. "We're trapped here! Oh my, alas, kids, goodbye!" Her eyeballs rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a vague groaning sound, luckily fainted and not dead. The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one bright young man was hatching a plan, which started with Miss Lila's shoe. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass was working together as one. And when she came to, Miss Lila Greer knew that something quite brave had been done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces. And on the far side, beaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. Boots, tree roots, and strings, fruit roll-ups, and things, some of which one should not mention, were stretched ridge to ridge in a glorious bridge dangling from shoestring suspension. It all became clear to Miss Lila Greer as she crossed that bridge over the stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than to spend your time building a dream. Now, every week at Blue River Creek Elementary in 2nd grade, all the kids can hear, along with Miss Greer, how the world's greatest buildings were made. Their weekly guest speaker in t-shirt and sneakers talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. Of course, he's the guy who builds towers from pie, that brilliant young man, Iggy Peck. Wow, that was tough. All right, we're going to read another one. Tinyville Town Gets to Work. morning. Welcome to Tinyville Town. Every day, the people of Tinyville Town get to work. The baker makes the most delicious donuts. The trash collectors collect the trash. The bus driver drives the bus, getting everyone to work on time. Everyone has a job to do. But this morning, something isn't right in Tinyville Town. The bus is late, says Mayor Murphy. There must be a problem. It's Mayor Murphy's job to solve problems. No donuts? Yuck. Mayor Murphy finds the police officer. Do you know what the problem is, he asks. I'll tell you what the problem is, she replies. Look, the trash collectors can't collect the trash. The baker can't open his bakery, and the bus driver can't get to the bus stop. It's a traffic jam. Uh-oh, says Mayor Murphy. This is a big problem for Tinyville Town. What should we do? We need a new bridge. Mayor Murphy knows just what to do. He meets with the Tinyville Town's engineer and city planner. The old bridge was built when Tinyville Town was much smaller, says the engineer. But now we need a bridge that is wider so that more cars, trucks, and buses can get across. The bridge should also be stronger, says the city planner, so it can carry these cars, trucks, and buses as Tinyville Town grows. Perfect, says Mayor Murphy. Can you also add big steel arches so the bridge is beautiful to look at? The engineer and city planner think for a moment. We can do that. Mayor Murphy holds a press conference. The newspaper reporter and the television crew record every word he says. My fellow citizens of Tinyville Town, says the mayor, we're building a new bridge. It will be bigger, stronger, and more beautiful than the old bridge. Let's get to work. Tinyville Town's construction begins. Not so tiny anymore, says the mayor. The excavation crew begins by digging deep into the banks of the river. This creates a strong foundation for the new concrete piers that will hold the new bridge. The crane operator lifts enormous stones high onto the piers. Expert stonemasons carefully put the stones in place. Brave iron workers assemble the big steel arches for the new bridge. The arches look beautiful and make the new bridge much stronger than the old one. Finally, the road crew paves the bridge and paints wide lanes onto the road so cars, trucks, and buses can get by. The bridge is finished and it's opening day. All of Tinyville Town is here. Mayor Murphy cuts the ribbon. The new Tinyville Town Bridge is now open, he says. Hooray! This is Tinyville Town. The end. I'm going to read 2 more books on a different link. Thanks for listening.